Hello and welcome to Kickoff with Casey. My name's Casey Patrick, and we've got a lot to talk about from last week. It was rivalry week, and there's a lot of games. I'm going to talk about how bad the Tennessee game was, but I think we also know there's a lot of other news regarding the coaching carousel. Lane Kiffin going to LSU, Alex Golesh going to Auburn, which I thought he was headed to Arkansas, but they got Ryan Silverfield. A lot of stuff we're going to talk about. And then the other big news is Texas A&M losing to Texas, which puts Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship game. So all that and more, don't go anywhere. We'll start with the coaching carousel stuff, which I call it carousel a lot because I guess I got that from the video game. But Kiffin to LSU is obviously the big news. I think it was like 7 years, $90 million, 8 years, $90 million, something like that, which is crazy because LSU is already going to pay Brian Kelly a gazillion dollars just to go away. But then again, a fired college football coach is the best job to have in the country right now. I would love to be one of those. But that's obviously the big domino. That was the first one, not the first one to fall. But it really impacted a whole lot of other coaching decisions. Ole Miss, which credit to those guys, I really like the fact that they kept it in-house and went with Pete Golding. I don't know if he's going to be good, but I love the fact that they kept it with their guy, somebody that they already had on campus. I think that's going to help at least a little bit with continuity. I messed that all up. It's going to help moving forward. I think you're going to be able to keep maybe some of the players. You're going to be able to keep at least some of the recruiting class. So again, I just like the fact that Ole Miss did that. But we've got a lot of names to go through with all these coaching changes. And like I said a minute ago, Alex Golesh to Auburn, I think that's awesome. Now the problem with it is Auburn's going to be very impatient. Which I know I said last week, if you beat Alabama, they don't really care. But Hugh Freeze didn't even make it to the Alabama game in, I think this was his second year. It may have been his third, so I might be wrong there. I like Auburn. I wouldn't mind seeing them do well. I like Alex Golesh. I think he's a top-tier guy. I think he's a good dude. Now, I love his offense. It's going to be fast. They're going to throw the ball around the yard. They're going to put up points. They're going to be fun to watch. But it's going to take him some time to really grow the type of program that he wants to. And I just hope that Auburn gives him at least a little bit of that time. But one of the other interesting fits that I found, UCLA hired James Madison coach Bob Chesney. I have no clue who Bob Chesney is. I don't know if he's related to Kenny or not. But it said that, of course, James Madison's ranked right now. They're in the top 25. I think they're 11-1. I mean, they've had a great season so far, and they're going to be in their conference championship against. I wrote it down here. Oh yeah, they have Troy. They have Troy this Friday. That's one of the few Friday games. So James Madison's doing something right. Coach Chesney's doing something right. I don't know if UCLA isn't a lateral move. I don't know I honestly don't know. Now, if Chesney comes in and gets UCLA winning football games, then, yeah, it probably is a better job than James Madison. But it's going to be hard to get him to that point. It's the part of California that doesn't really care about football. Of course, they had John Wooden that won like 45 basketball national championships 100 years ago. They love their basketball. But with some of those programs, it's going to be hard. He's going to have to win. He's going to have to come in. He's going to have to do really good to start growing some sort of a fan base there because they've really struggled this year. They've struggled for a while now. And I felt like when I saw that, it kind of felt like more of a lateral move. And as good as he's been at James Madison, you would think he'd probably wind up somewhere else. But I digress. Not my problem, not my signing. Now, we talked a little bit about Ryan Silverfield to Arkansas. When I wrote his name down, I actually meant to go back and look at a little bit of his history. I didn't do that. Forgot to do that. Again, Arkansas is going to be one of the tough places to win. I mean, you're in the SEC. They're spending a lot of money on basketball right now with Calipari there. But, I mean, good luck to him. Here's a funny one. It's going to be the last coaching thing that we talk about. Florida has hired John Sumrall, coach from Tulane, I think. I don't really know a lot about John Sumrall. I will tell you what I do know. And what I do know is that my older brother, Andy, is a huge Florida Gator fan. And I told you guys last week, on Thursday, I was going to go down to Alabama and see my mom and my grandmother and my aunts and some other family for Thanksgiving. And my ride down to Alabama was Andy. And so I rode with Andy, his wife, and Bryce and my nephew. And so, I mean, me and Andy got plenty of time to talk about on the way up there. He's still kind of hoping for Kiffin. He was like a lot of the rest of that Florida fan base that was, I think, really, really hoping that Florida would find a way to get Kiffin there. And there was a lot of optimism on Thursday's ride to Alabama. On Sunday's ride home, which was yesterday, on yesterday's ride home, he, I think about halfway home, he started to get the idea that John Sumrall was going to be the next Gators head coach. And he didn't seem too pleased with it. And I think it's only because there's a lot of negative bias that comes from the group of 5 coaches, because they just had Billy Napier, who came in and said all the right things but did none of it. I mean, he recruited. I don't want to say that. He brought in a lot of coaches. Recruited pretty well. But I just don't think Florida ever really got... They obviously didn't get what they wanted out of the relationship with Napier, because now he's gone. And that's what Andy was telling me. He said that, Sumrall may not be that bad of a coach, but the fact that you just came off of somebody else that had basically the same exact resume kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth. And I don't hate that for Florida fans. In fact, it wouldn't bother me if they never won another football game until Jesus comes back. But that's just not realistic, because they're going to play somebody really bad at some point. But I would love for Sumrall to come in and be Napier 2.0. However, it's hard to miss that badly again. He may not be great, but I mean, I think if you're Florida, I think there's a really good chance, if you're a Florida fan, that Sumrall ends up being kind of like Heupel. He's going to have a few 10-win seasons in his pocket. This year, Tennessee's 8-4. I mean, maybe Sumrall's better. Maybe he's not as good as that, but I think there's like a 90% chance that he's going to be somewhat like Heupel. I mean, just not Urban Meyer going in there and winning for 48 months straight, but at the same time, I have a hard time believing that Florida's going to just stick around in the gutter where they've been for a little bit now. They were so totally disinterested in the game against Tennessee. It just, even, Andy on the way on the road down there, he's talking about how poorly Napier had coached up DJ Lagway, the Florida quarterback. And I told Andy, I was like, man, it looked like he didn't even want to be there. It looked like he didn't want to be on the football field. Which sometimes it happens with young athletes, especially when they're put in a really bad position. Sometimes the mental battles are tougher than the physical battles. I think anybody with 2 brain cells can watch a Florida game and figure out that DJ Lagway has some physical traits that you'd like to see in your quarterback. But at the same time, if you're not coaching them up and you're not really seeing results, it's hard to keep that work ethic and hard to keep everything flowing. But regardless, John Sumrall to Florida. There was another coaching hire that, it's Eric Morris. I think that was his name. Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. And the funniest thing I saw about that, I was sitting here doing a little bit of research, before we started the show. And one of the things it said, I think it's Eric Morris. I know his last name is Morris. I may be getting his first name wrong. But one of the things it said for Coach Morris was, well, he's not going to be Mike Gundy. And I thought, don't you want that? I mean, if you're Oklahoma State, because, I mean, the only thing Mike Gundy ever did was just leverage the possibility of leaving for more money. I think Oklahoma State had a few seasons there. I mean, especially, I think they were ranked in the top 10 maybe 2 or 3 years ago. 2's really, really short time period, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I remember Oklahoma State being like 9th at one point. Gundy has had some good runs in his career as a head coach at Oklahoma State, but I think you would obviously want something a little bit better. And to say that he's no Mike Gundy or some kind of comment like that, it was just weird. It was like, it was almost putting Gundy on a pedestal that I don't think he ever really deserved. But we're going to talk about one of the games before we go anywhere. The Texas A&M loss to Texas really stinks. It really stinks because now the SEC championship game is going to be between two teams that nobody thought was going to be there in Georgia and Alabama. Being sarcastic, I think most everybody and their mother thought that Georgia and Alabama was going to be in the SEC championship this year. And we're stuck with the same matchup that we've gotten for what has felt like the last decade. And all A&M had to do was just beat Texas. Which, I say that, I know Texas is a decent football team. But, man. Now I will say this about Elko. I don't know how many of you saw this, but after the game at the press conference, apparently somebody in one of the media members had left the door open to the press conference room. And as Elko is sitting up there, you can hear what might be players or fans from Texas, and they are celebrating. That's a big win over a rival. And Elko's up on his press conference, and he goes, "Can't we shut that door, make this a professional event?" Or something along the lines of that. And here's the thing. I don't think Mike Elko's ever going to see this, but that is just the most whiniest thing you could do in that situation. Man, you lost. It's okay that you lost. Every coach has lost a game at some point in his career. How you react to that loss shows a lot about who you are as a person. And if you're willing to just bust out ignorant sayings at people, again, it's not some media photographer's job to shut the door. If you were the last person in there, you should have shut the door, quite honestly. Or, not every door should be shut. It's just crazy to me that Elko wants to stand up there and cry and complain. It's like, dude, you lost. Don't try to get mad and throw this at somebody else. You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to be mad. And you're allowed to treat people like that. You can do that if you want. But the thing is, people like me are going to sit here and I'm going to judge the crap out of you. I know I shouldn't judge people, but I'm telling you that's a ridiculous thing to do. That's a ridiculous way to act. I think it makes Mike Elko look a little like I lost a little bit of respect just off of that very short interaction. And it was just, I don't know if it was TikTok or Twitter. It was like a 5-second video of him just, why can't we do this like professionals? And it's like, man, I'm out. Because you start to see what people are really made of when things like that happen. And that shows me that, I know you expected to come in and win. I know you wanted to win that game, get in the SEC championship. There's a lot of things on the line. You're making a lot of money. I know it's a very serious event. But how you treat people when things don't go your way show a lot more about you than your wins and losses. Ask Brian Kelly. That's going to be all for that. But we're going to go to our first commercial. Make sure you don't go anywhere. When you get back, we're going to do our top 25 rundown, and we're going to talk about that god-awful Vanderbilt game that we watched. I only watched a little bit of it. We're going to talk about it, so y'all make sure and don't go anywhere.
He shoots, and he scores!
closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
All right, welcome back to Kickoff with Casey. I think we're going to talk about that Vanderbilt Tennessee game first, and then we'll do our top 25 rundown. Which I think I had to do the AP poll again this week because I couldn't find a college football poll, and I'm impatient. But I have to be upfront and honest with you guys. On Saturday, we ended up doing some family stuff, and by the time I got back to the Airbnb where we were staying, I didn't realize the Tennessee Vanderbilt game had started. It was about 2:30. And my dad texted me, actually, which he was here in Tennessee, and I think I'd been out riding around doing stuff, and I wanted to go lay down for just a second, and I sprawled out on the bed, and my dad texted me. He said, what game is the Tennessee Vanderbilt game on? And I told him, I think it was ESPN, so I told him that, and then I was like, well, it's 2:30, I need to turn it on over there. And so I try to look for it on I don't have ESPN. We've had this conversation before. I'm not going to sit here and cry about it anymore. But I started looking for some live streams on YouTube, and you could find one, and then it would get copyrighted in 5 seconds and knocked down. So I think I got to see, I think it was Deshaun Bishop scored the first touchdown for Tennessee, and then just watching through clips and maybe like some ESPN updates, I realized it was 14-7. Vanderbilt was leading. I told you guys last week, I felt I was more confident in beating Vanderbilt than beating Florida. And that just goes to show you how ignorant I can be sometimes. Which, hindsight's 20/20, but looking back, Florida was not interested in playing us at all. They were very interested in playing Florida State for whatever reason, beat the crap out of them. But Vanderbilt, I'm going to tell you the difference between Vanderbilt and Tennessee, other than the fact that I think Vanderbilt's coaches actually coach on defense, they expected to win that game. I think Vanderbilt expected to win that game more. And I don't want to say they wanted to win it more. I think that's obvious. But I think one thing that may not be so obvious is that I truly believe Vanderbilt expected to win that game more. Now, I'm not in either one of those buildings throughout the entire week. I can't tell you much about what happens behind closed doors at Vanderbilt. I can't tell you about what happens behind closed doors at Tennessee. But I've got a really good feeling that Vanderbilt spent the entire week talking about how they were going to win. And I'm assuming that Tennessee talked about what they had to do to win. Those are two completely different mindsets. I don't usually call for people's jobs. I'm not the guy that does that. And I'm not calling for Heupel's job. I love what Heupel has done since he's gotten here. Of course, I'd love to be a little bit better. I think every team or every fan of every team would say that. So I'm not going out on a limb there. But I don't think that Tim Banks is good enough for Tennessee to compete for a national championship as a defensive coordinator. And I realized last year Tennessee's defense was really good. They had a lot of really good players on that defense. The stuff that Banks likes to do, it helped to have James Pierce, one of the best pass rushers in the country. It helped to have him up there so you could execute your defense. This year, I feel like Tennessee had some good pass rushers. They didn't have James Pierce 2.0, which is what I think they needed for Banks to look as good as he did last year. But I just don't believe that I don't believe that Banks is good enough as a defensive coordinator for Tennessee to win a national championship. Maybe not even good enough to compete, because Ohio State ran them out of the shoe last year. And Jeremiah Smith told all the fans before that game, he said, Tennessee likes to line up in man-on-man, and I don't think they can cover us. And we couldn't. Again, I say we when I talk about my team. I will continue to do that. Kudos to Vanderbilt, though. I think Pavia ran for 800 yards against Tennessee. He might still be running right now. The Cedric Alexander kid, I mean, he had a different gear. He had a gear and just outran the defense on a few plays. Tennessee gave up 317 rushing yards, I think, like 528 total, 548 total, something like that. It was the most points Vanderbilt had ever scored at Neyland. What does that tell you? Now, I get it. I understand Tennessee's defense wasn't that great. I understand that this is the best season Vanderbilt's ever had. But at the same time, Tennessee was ranked. Tennessee has beaten a few decent teams. I don't think they've beaten anybody over 500. But it's not like, this isn't like the 2020 Tennessee Volunteers. This isn't the team that won 3 games. This is a team that was ranked almost in the top 10 at one point. There is no reason for this Tennessee team to give up that many yards and that many points to anybody, especially Vanderbilt. And I don't care how good Vanderbilt is. Again, and I don't care that, I do care that Vanderbilt won, but that's not what this is about. I'm not crying about Tennessee losing. I'm crying about how they lost. That was awful. I mean, terrible. And there's a part of me that's kind of glad after Vanderbilt got up 14-7. I said, you know what? I'm gonna go grab something to eat because the stream went out on my phone and it's copyrighted. I'm like, forget it. And so I decided to go out and this. I'm still in Alabama and there's a place. Man, what was it called? It's like Floyd's Dock or something. Wolf's Bay. I don't know where I come up with Floyd's Dock. Wolf's Bay Seafood. That was the best food I have ever eaten in my life. And thank God, because I had to sit there and watch the rest of that Vanderbilt-Tennessee game. It was 38-24 when I got there. Tennessee turned the ball over on downs, and Vanderbilt scored again to go up 45-24. Offense let them down. Defense was terrible. And again, I don't usually call for people's jobs, but I'd be sending Tim Banks on a plane somewhere else. We're going to do a quick top 25 rundown. We're going to go to our last commercial and then come back. But before the commercial, Ohio State finishes off perfect regular season 27-9 win over Michigan. Indiana also finishes off a perfect regular season 56-3 win over Purdue. Georgia, they keep winning, but I feel like they should have had Georgia Tech by a little bit more than this. 16-9. Oregon, which was our lock of the week last week, Oregon was 6.5-point favorites, took down Washington by 12. If you guys listen to me, you might actually be broke by now. I don't know if you ever made any money, but if you took Oregon last week in 6.5 points, kudos to you. Texas Tech 49-0 shutout over West Virginia. Ole Miss 38-19 defeated Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl just as Lane Kiffin hits the tarmac to head down to Louisiana State University. Texas A&M, we talked about them losing 27-17 to Texas. Oklahoma 17-13 over LSU. Notre Dame 49-20 over Stanford. Alabama 27-20 over Auburn. I will tell you, down in Alabama last week, it's crazy how many more Alabama fans I saw than Auburn fans. I think I saw like 2 Auburn fans, and everybody else is walking around in the crimson red. It was disgusting. Anyway, BYU 41-21 over UCF. Miami 38-7 over Pittsburgh. We talked about Vanderbilt slaughtering Tennessee 45-24. Texas, of course, with the win. Utah 31-21 over Kansas. Virginia 27-7 over Virginia Tech. USC 29-10 over UCLA. Michigan losing 27-9 to Ohio State. James Madison 59-10 over Coastal Carolina. North Texas 52-25 over Temple. Tulane 27-0 shutout over Charlotte. Arizona 23-7 over Arizona State. Navy 28-17 over Memphis. Georgia Tech losing to Georgia 16-9. And Missouri took down Arkansas 31-17. That's your top 25 rundown. We're going to go to our last commercial of the day, and then when we get back, we're going to talk about all of next week's, not all, but some of next week's matchups. So don't go anywhere.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
He shoots, and he scores!
The winning just got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
All right, welcome back to Kickoff with Casey. We're just going to go through a few of these upcoming games that we've got for championship weekend. And we'll start. We've got 2 Friday games. And these are just some of the ranked matchups for the championship games. Troy at James Madison. Of course, they've lost their coach Bob Chesney. I don't know if he's going to stay and coach that game or not. I probably should have looked that up. I don't know. And also North Texas at Tulane. Both teams ranked right now. The Troy at James Madison game is 6 p.m. North Texas at Tulane at 7 p.m. And then we move on to Saturday. There are 4 ranked championship games, and I think at least the first 3 are going to be really, really fun. We'll start with BYU and Texas Tech at 11 a.m. I think the winner of that game gets into definitely, obviously, gets into the college football playoff. But you've also got a chance if Texas Tech loses. I could see how BYU and Texas Tech get in. And then at 3 p.m. we have Georgia at Alabama. I think Georgia's 2.5-point favorites there. I kind of just looked at it a second ago. Yeah, Georgia's 2.5-point favorites. I can't. I really don't know. Who I picked to win that game, because Alabama wins it every year in the regular season, but Georgia, of course, I think they have 1 SEC championship win and then 1 national championship win over Alabama. I think I'm right there. But then 7 p.m. Indiana at Ohio State. 7 p.m. number 1 versus number 2. That's going to be all kinds of fun. I cannot wait to watch that game Saturday night. I guess I gotta go find me a TV to watch it somewhere. And then the ACC Championship, Duke versus Virginia, 7 p.m. And then on to our last thing, lock of the week. I looked at it for just a second, and I'm gonna take Ohio State in 5.5 points to beat Indiana. I'm going to do it for 2 reasons. First of all, I think if I take Ohio State, maybe Indiana wins. I feel like I'm part of the 98% of America that will be rooting for Indiana on Saturday. But I also, there's a part of me deep down, I love Kurt Cignetti. Fernandez, the quarterback. I like what Indiana's doing, but there's a part of me that just, I feel like Ohio State might win this game by about 10, maybe even 13, 14 points. I really don't want Ohio State to just get up and run away with it. In fact, I would love to see Indiana just run them over. I think it would be fun to watch Indiana beat Ohio State like 34-10 or something like that. I think that would be sick. But my heart is telling me Ohio State 5.5 points. So I think it's actually raining outside. It's going to be cold this week. They've told us their school's starting late tomorrow. We might have some snow and some other nonsense. So y'all be safe out there this week. Make sure you get to a TV. I'm going to do the same thing this weekend. We've got some good games on Friday. We've got some great games on Saturday. So make sure you check them out. Come back next week, and we'll talk about it some more. So y'all have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.